Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something we all experience, anger.
Indeed. And our guide for this is the YouTube audiobook, Anger, Wisdom for Cooling the Flames, by the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh.
Yeah, a really important voice on this.
Definitely. Our goal today is pretty direct, really vital, I think.
Hmm.
It's to pull out the core insights, the practical techniques from his teachings to help you understand and, well, cool the flames of anger, both within yourself, and in your relationships.
Right, so we'll be looking at his wisdom, but also like real life examples and mindfulness practices.
Exactly. Bringing it all together.
Okay, let's get straight to it then. And maybe start with something that might sound a bit surprising at first, the real nature of happiness.
Right. Because the source material suggests that, constantly chasing external things like wealth or power, that's not actually the key.
Which goes against a lot of what society tells us.
It really does. The emphasis here is much more on inner work. True happiness, Thich Nhat Hanh suggests, comes from easing our own internal suffering. He contrasts, the usual ways we measure success with the Buddha, who had very little materially,
Right.
but radiated joy, because he'd freed himself from what Thich Nhat Hanh calls mental poisons.
Mental poisons. That's a striking phrase. What does that cover?
Things like rage, hopelessness, envy, delusion, these really toxic emotions that essentially lock our happiness away. So true happiness, it's about inner peace, not chasing things outside.
Ease the internal pain to unlock the joy. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And it really highlights that no external force, no magic wand can just banish our anger. It's work we have to do ourselves.
Precisely. The source material is very clear on this.
Mm.
Self-work is absolutely essential. Doesn't matter what your background is. Untangling these knots of desire, fury, confusion, it demands our active participation.
And when we do that inner work.
Then, yeah, we naturally become more able to help others with their struggles too. Kind of ripples outwards.
Now, one idea that really stood out for me was compassionate listening. It's so much more than just hearing words, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
A key thing to grasp here is the deep link between anger and underlying pain.
Okay.
The source points out that people who are bitter often lash out because, well, they're hurting deeply themselves.
Right. Hurt people, as they say.
Exactly. And compassionate listening, it's likened to Kuan Yin, the bodhisattva who absorbed suffering. It's this incredible power to break that cycle of anger.
So it's more than just hearing. It's feeling the other person's pain, trying to understand it.
Yes, that's how you break the cycle. Presence, non-judgment, mindful breathing, these are the keys.
So how do we actually do that? Compassionate listening in practice, it sounds great, but what are the, concrete steps?
Well, the audiobook outlines several essential things. It starts with being completely present.
Okay. No distraction.
Right. No judgment, no interrupting, and engaging with your whole being, your eyes, your body, your mind focused on the other person. And using mindful breathing as your anchor, to stay grounded in that moment. Half-hearted attention just won't cut it.
Right. And there's that really impactful story in the source material about a Catholic woman in Chicago. Can you remind us about that one?
Oh, yes. It's a beautiful illustration of how powerful this can be. This woman, very intelligent, but deeply unhappy. Her marriage was full of conflict.
Okay.
She was actually at the point of considering ending her life. Then, her Buddhist friend suggested she listen to a Dharma talk, a Buddhist teaching.
And what happened?
Well, things shifted remarkably quickly, actually. Hearing the teachings, she started to recognize her own part in her husband's suffering, particularly her silence, her withdrawal. And this realization, it led to their first truly heartfelt conversation in years.
Wow.
She opened up about her pain, her desire for things to change. And it was so powerful that it actually inspired her husband to agree to go on a retreat with her.
That really drives home the point, doesn't it? That profound change can happen quickly, with the right words, and crucially, with that genuine listening.
Exactly. It's not always this long, drawn-out process we sometimes imagine.
Okay, so moving on a bit, the audiobook also explores mindful consumption. And this isn't just about food, right?
Not at all. It's about being really aware of everything we take in day to day.
Like,
Food, yes, but also media, the conversations we have, even, he says, the air we breathe, that it makes you think about the constant stream of stuff we're exposed to.
yeah, absolutely.
And the point here is that anger is actually fueled by these daily inputs. What we consume feeds our emotions.
So we need to choose carefully.
Yes. Choose nourishment over just numbing ourselves.
Yeah.
The book uses the phrase, no junk food for the body, no junk thoughts for the mind.
I like that. Simple but powerful.
It is. It's about intentionally cultivating quality in everything we absorb.
And there's a specific focus on mindful eating, too.
Yes, very much so. Making slow, deliberate choices about food and being fully present while eating.
Like the example of Plum Village.
Exactly. It's not just about fueling the body, it's about being present in that moment of eating. The alms bowl, that monks use. That serves as a tool for mindful portions. A reminder to stop when you've had enough. Avoid overindulging.
And the implications go beyond just our personal health.
Absolutely. Mindful consumption, in the bigger picture, encourages us to support things like organic farming, to make ethical choices.
Yeah.
It recognizes how interconnected everything is.
So it even suggests having open conversations with family about making these mindful choices together.
Yes, bringing awareness into the household, into our relationships.
Okay, so we've looked at understanding where anger comes from, the power of listening, what we consume. How do we actually deal with anger when it flares up inside us? The book talks about transforming it, not attacking it.
Yes, and this is a really crucial distinction. The source strongly advises against seeking revenge
Why is that?
because it just escalates the anger. He says it's like pouring gasoline on a fire.
Right, makes it worse.
Much worse. The focus needs to shift inward, gently dousing those internal flames. And that requires compassion,
Compassion for...
both for ourselves, for feeling the anger,
Yeah.
and for the person we might be angry towards.
I like the analogy used anger being like a storm.
It's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah.
You need to find shelter, let it pass through, and then focus on rebuilding afterwards.
So what are some of those practical shelters, tools we can use when the storm hits?
Well, the audiobook offers several really powerful ones. Mindful breathing is absolutely key.
Just breathing.
Even a single conscious breath can help you reconnect with yourself when you're caught up in strong emotion.
Okay.
Walking with awareness is another. Really noticing each step, maybe syncing it with your breath. It turns a simple walk into a kind of meditation. It's about learning to hold your anger gently, almost like cradling it, while examining the perceptions fueling it, and trying to recognize the suffering of the other person too.
And it sounds like consistency is really important here. It's not a one-time fix.
Not at all. Consistent practice is what transforms that raging inferno, as he calls it, into a calm, clear lake.
That takes time.
It does. He even suggests using a mirror sometimes as a kind of wake-up call to see the physical signs of anger on your face, in your body.
And the mindful smile. That sounds almost counterintuitive when you're furious.
It does, doesn't it? But interestingly, that small physical act can actually interrupt the anger cycle.
How?
Think of it like tending to a crying infant. What does a baby need? Comfort, gentle attention, not scolding?
Right.
Mindfulness acts like that gentle, persistent force. Anger is described as this clenched fist of confusion
Yeah.
that mindfulness can slowly help to unfold, leading to revelation, to understanding.
And there were those vivid analogies like comparing anger management to cooking.
Yes. The idea is you need that steady, gentle warmth of mindfulness to soften the raw bitterness of anger, just like steady heat softens, say, potatoes in a pot.
Okay, I get that.
It's this process of composting our emotional pain, transforming the waste into something nourishing, recognizing that love and anger, they're both organic, natural parts of us.
So it's like a two-step process. First, acknowledge it, greet the emotion.
Exactly. Hello, anger, I see you.
And
Then you dig deeper. Try to understand its roots, its underlying causes. Like tending to that crying infant, finding out why it's crying.
the book really emphasizes prioritizing this.
Absolutely. Drop everything, tend to it first. That's the advice. Offer yourself the same tenderness you might offer a loved one.
Like pressing your palm to your skin, that kind of self-compassion.
Yes. It's about becoming a kind of detective of our own emotions.
Huh.
Learning anger's language, seeing it as a signal, something needing attention, not as the enemy itself.
And anger can be so contagious. It spreads so easily.
It really can. But the good news is mindfulness can be contagious too in a positive way. You can stop the spill by shifting the focus. Instead of wanting to punish someone who's angry, you start wanting to understand and help them.
Like the story of the boy at Plum Village.
Exactly. The 12-year-old boy who, through his own mindfulness practice, managed to break the cycle of his father's anger.
He recognized it was inherited.
Yes, he saw it as a pattern he'd inherited. But crucially, one he could choose to change, to rewire.
That's incredibly hopeful. And that idea of treating people who hurt us as wounded gardeners needing help, that's such a compassionate shift in perspective.
It really is. And the audiobook stresses the power of simple, truthful communication in relationships.
Like saying,
Phrases like, I'm hurting, and I need you to know that. Or, I'm trying here, for both of us. And even, I need your help.
saying I need help isn't weakness then.
No, it's presented as an act of strength. It shows you're engaged, you're trying. And consistent positive actions nurturing ourselves. That creates ripples. It helps heal that wounded child within us all.
Leading to more freedom, calm, connection.
Exactly. Liberation, really.
So what about rebuilding relationships then, when anger has already caused damage?
Well, the focus shifts again, moving from seeing the relationship as adversarial, like a battle, to seeing it as an alliance, becoming partners in peace.
Partners in peace. I like that.
It emphasizes creating peace treaties in our relationships, agreements built on mindful choices, mutual well-being.
And recognizing anger as a kind of trick.
Yeah, a trick, a habit. The habit of blaming others. The real work, the effective work, is owning your own emotions.
So taking those practical steps when anger flares up, pausing, breathing, maybe walking away for a bit, that's crucial.
Absolutely. Cultivating peace means consciously choosing connection over the fight. Retaliation. That's just self-sabotage in the long run.
The book suggests treating anger like a stomach ache.
Yes. And do it honestly, with care. Just like a physical ache. Communicate honestly. I'm hurting, and I need you to know. No games.
And setting a time frame for dealing with it, like 24 hours.
That can be helpful, yes. Or even writing feelings down if talking feels too hard in the moment. Committing to doing my best to manage the anger.
And asking for help again.
Yes, please help me. An act of strength. And apologizing sincerely, quickly, when we mess up, when we act out of anger or carelessness, that's vital.
There's also that lovely idea of reverence in relationships.
Yes, from Vietnamese culture. Treating loved ones with deep, quiet respect, like honored guests.
Simple reminders can help too, like carrying a pebble.
Little anchors. A smooth pebble in your pocket to touch, to remind you to breathe, to be mindful when tension rises. It all comes back to seeing anger like that crying infant needing comfort.
Right.
And mindfulness as the shelter. Transforming the emotional waste through that composting process we talked about.
Greet it, then dig deeper.
Those 2 steps. And remembering that healing, just like anger, can be contagious. But it takes consistent action, dedication to the practice.
Okay, another really key area the audiobook explores is understanding our perceptions. How our assumptions fuel anger.
Oh, this is huge. So much anger and suffering comes from assumptions we haven't even checked.
Like that story of the man.
Yes, the man who wrongly believed his wife's child wasn't his. For 12 years.
So years. Unbelievable. All based on a misinterpreted perception.
Exactly. It's a stark reminder, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our minds can be unreliable narrators. We have to double-check our thoughts, our interpretations.
So questioning what we think we know is essential.
Absolutely. Untangling those false beliefs brings peace. It allows love to return naturally. It means really listening without interrupting, without getting defensive.
And being honest enough to say, hold on, emotions are too high right now. Let's pause.
Yes. Taking a timeout. Remembering that in most conflicts, nobody's the villain. Both people are probably struggling.
So becoming that compassionate listener, that steady presence for someone else's pain.
And resisting the urge to jump in and correct them immediately when they're just venting, that's so important.
Offer clarity later, with kindness.
Exactly. When things have calmed down, it de-escalates things, builds understanding, instead of fueling the fire.
It all seems to come back to patience and mindfulness. Anger doesn't just disappear instantly.
That's absolutely right. Anger needs time to fade. Patience is presented as the actual foundation of love.
And those tools again, mindful breathing, mindful walking.
Crucial for managing anger in the moment. And that cooking analogy, again, the steady warmth of mindfulness, softening the anger over time.
Like sunlight coaxing open a stubborn flower.
Beautifully put, yes. Mindfulness is described as this healing energy. It's even compared to the Holy Spirit in Christianity in the text.
A gentle but powerful force.
Very powerful. And the book also mentions the impact of a shared energy field in a community. How being together with others, practicing mindfulness, can help transform anger collectively.
Which leads us right into compassion and interconnectedness. It's not just individual work, is it?
Not at all. It's about how we relate to others, to the world. Learning to tap into that quiet pulse of compassion beneath all the surface chaos.
And deep listening is described as an unseen skill.
Yes, something that actually requires training, requires practice. Therapists play an important role, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But the source gently points out that even helpers need to manage their own pain to listen effectively.
So real listening isn't about fixing or analyzing.
No, it's about giving space, being present, listening with your whole heart, and compassion becomes like emotional armor.
Protection against the fires.
Exactly. Your own and others. But there's a caution, too, about burnout.
Compassion fatigue.
Right. So it's vital to balance facing suffering with actively connecting to joy, finding nourishment in positive connections in community.
Cherishing each moment.
Yes, with peace and kindness, like the simple act of lighting incense done mindfully. The community becomes an anchor in the storm.
So we need to nourish ourselves daily to be able to hold space for others and recognize that deep interconnectedness, like between a parent and child.
Absolutely. Their struggles are shared.
Mhm.
Open, honest conversations, acknowledging mistakes, focusing on shared well-being, these are key.
Using love letters even.
Yes, to plant seeds of beauty, to reconnect. Cultivating gratitude, appreciation. These are internal resources against anger. Absence can even deepen appreciation sometimes.
So ultimately, it's choosing peace over anger, using mindfulness as the boat to the cooler side.
Precisely. Remembering happiness is our birthright.
The audiobook also offers some really practical, maybe surprising exercises.
It does, like giving a gid unexpectedly to someone you're angry with. A simple act that can totally shift the dynamic.
And deep looking.
Presented as the ultimate remedy, because it dissolves that feeling of separation through compassion. And it distinguishes between just venting anger.
Which can fuel it.
Right. Versus understanding and dissolving its roots. Mindfulness is like that cool-headed buddy accompanying your anger, offering calm care.
So it starts with acknowledging and accepting.
Always. And weaving mindfulness into everyday moments, breathing, walking, sipping coffee, recognizing our interconnectedness, making peace with our own reflections.
Drafting a truce with loved ones. Simple rules for peace.
Yes, because true transformation starts within.
Yes.
Dissolving the illusion of separateness. Cultivating self-awareness, self-kindness. That's the foundation for loving others.
And breaking those inherited patterns.
Choosing differently through mindfulness. Conflict resolution becomes about deeper understanding, not pointing fingers, embracing non-duality, accepting all parts of ourselves, including anger, and transforming it with compassion.
Which might sometimes mean fierce compassion.
Yes, standing up to injustice, but without becoming the enemy yourself. Always guided by wise action, supported by teachers, by community.
Acting before conflict erupts.
Addressing underlying tensions, prioritizing compassion over rigid dogma, like the vegetarian example in the book. Change comes through shared experience, not demands.
And patience and listening heal relationships, like the mother and daughter example.
Exactly. Remembering love is always there, beneath the surface. Nurturing it takes practice.
And that story about David and Angelina really ties a lot of this together.
It really does. Shows how blaming others leads to isolation, and how vital self-awareness and a willingness to change are for relationships. David's journey highlights facing how we've wounded others as key to our own transformation.
Finally, the book talks about internal formations, these emotional knots we carry.
Yes, internal formations, or samkalpa actually, it's samskara. Think of them as tight coils of anger, pain, frustration binding us. Even joy and love can form these knots sometimes.
So we need to protect ourselves from toxic influences.
And confront anger directly, but with understanding, not fighting it. Mindfulness is the tool to soften and untie these knots, like a fist slowly opening.
So it's the opposite of just letting off steam.
Very much so. Venting can reinforce anger. Mindfulness is about gentle care, like comforting that crying child, leaning on friends, community when it feels overwhelming.
Simple things like walking can help untangle things.
Yes, mindfulness is a hello and a hug to anger. Cultivating joy gives resilience. Mindful breathing anchors us against old habits.
Recognizing inherited rhythms, but choosing differently.
Exactly. Choosing joy, even when logic argues against it. Aligning choices with our deepest desires. Being present for others is a primary duty. Healing relationships brings deeper fulfillment than external success.
So we write our own story of transformation by digging into the pain and turning it into freedom.
Yes. Soaking ourselves in compassion first, seeing the other's suffering is real, using the community for support and wisdom.
Letting go of rigid ideas, waking up to small miracles.
Using letters for thoughtful communication. Letting the community be a kind mirror. Creating that personal peace treaty for a life of harmony rooted in practice.
Those 5 core mindfulness practices provide a framework.
Honoring life, giving freely, loving with integrity, listening then speaking, conscious living.
Yes.
And the guided reflections at the end help visualize anger as a storm, cultivate compassion.
And it all goes back to deep relaxation and mindful breathing as anchors.
Absolutely. True rest starts in the body. Deep relaxation, scanning the body, releasing tension with the out-breath, maybe using a mantra like, breathing in, I soothe my body. Breathing out, I release tension. That quiets the mind.
Breath is the bridge between body and mind.
Exactly. Regulating breath calms emotions. Guide it gently, don't force it. Practicing relaxation together as a family can be powerful. Belly breathing is a great anchor in storms.
Remembering strong emotions are fleeting.
Yes, we don't have to be the emotion. Practice makes grounding easier. Nurture positive emotions by breathing into them. Meditation feeds the spirit. Turn inward with kindness, even to difficult emotions.
The mind as fertile soil.
Holding seeds of all emotions. Anger is always potentially there. Needing a mindful greeting. Mindful breathing is like damage control for the soul. Pause. Ask yourself, do I want peace in this moment?
Using awareness to reshape habits, like
Yeah.
the visitor at Plum Village recognizing impatience.
Yes. Naming emotions kindly helps regain control.
Okay, so bringing this incredibly insightful deep dive into Thich Nhat Hanh's wisdom together, we've seen happiness comes from within, the power of listening, mindful consumption.
Right. We've got practical tools for transforming anger, rebuilding relationships, understanding perceptions, appreciating patience, community, self-compassion.
And the grounding influence of relaxation and breathing.
Absolutely. So you listening now have a real wealth of insights and techniques to start understanding and working with your own anger more effectively.
It's an ongoing journey, though, right?
Definitely. Not a final destination. But with consistent, dedicated practice, you absolutely can begin to cool those internal flames and find a greater sense of lasting peace.
Great. And on that note, here's a final thought for you to perhaps mull over this week. Think about just one knot of anger or frustration you might be carrying right now. This week, maybe experiment with just one of the simple mindful breathing or awareness techniques we talked about today.
Just one small step.
Exactly. And just notice what shifts, maybe not just in how intense the feeling is, but perhaps in your understanding of it too.
See what happens.
Well, thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.